really roomy.
Intermittent earlier, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I had a mic. I had a 3.5 millimeter extension on the pile mic. I removed that.
It sounds
Unbalanced
really
cables.
roomy.
You caught me. I don't have headphones in yet.
Okay. Well, no, but it doesn't sound like you don't have headphones. It just sounds roomy. I don't know. It sounds like it doesn't have mic. That's all. Well, it is. It is. Okay. There you go.
Wi-Fi on it.
Sounds Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
What were you
Yeah,
going to say,
so
Brian?
does Alex, but I know he's in a hotel room, so Wi-Fi.
I'm not in a hotel room anymore.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You sounded.
But I am.
You sounded Wi-Fi there for a minute.
Hold on. I may. Let's see how this goes. Oh, it looks like it worked. All right. I just wanted to make sure I still had internet. I had sent them an email, my microwave, like, I don't need you anymore because I'm at the office. And I suddenly realized this morning, I was like, I haven't rewired everything yet. So anyway, it's all good. Welcome to office hours. It's Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Well, in the U.S., it's not anything for everybody else. It's just another Wednesday day. So anyway, good to have you here. If you want to join the Zoom conversation, you can see a little link down below. And if you're here and you see this fine panel and you're wondering, how do I become part of that panel? Get here early. So you just need to have good internet, good video, good audio. And be here by 6:40. Now, we open the doors by 6 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to be here that early, but we have a lot of fun. I think, we're slowly opening earlier and earlier and earlier. And so having people just kind of hang out and talk about stuff. So, but 6:40, between 6:40 and 6:43, we're going to start the mic check. So if you're not here by 6:40, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to make it. So be here by then. We do mic checks. And then during that time, really from the time you come in, is a great opportunity to ask questions. So what we do here is answer questions. That's all we do. It's office hours. That's what you do in office hours. You answer questions. And so your questions, you drive the entire conversation as the listener. So what you vote on, what you ask, those are the things that we're going to talk about today. Every day is different because of you, and because of the listeners, and because of people who put the questions in. Whatever you're dealing with that day, or yesterday, preferably yesterday, you thought of things and you remembered us. You remembered that we're here for you, and you wrote down some questions, and you said, "Oh, I don't quite understand that," and then you wrote it down and brought it in here and made it available to us. So hopefully, we have a lot of them today, so it's a good start. Normally we have second hours. We're only going to do the education one on Saturday, but outside of that, because it's Thanksgiving weekend here, we're going to slow down a little bit and just have 2 hours of Q&A through this week, and then we'll be back to second hours next week. And I think, and by the way, if you are interested in sharing this with other people, you're allowed. It's in the Discord. I put the link that you should share it with people in the chat. Don't share your own link, because they'll all come in as you. And this is the time when I'm talking and Mickey raises his hand to remind me to make him host. So then I do that. And then Stuart, what were you gonna say?
Speaking of sharing, has anyone listened to Adam Savage's most recent podcast? The audio was a little special from one of the blokes, so I told them, come join office hours. We do a mic check.
Very good. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey.
One other announcement I got at the email, Dolby is closing up the Dolby Vision stuff, Dolby Max stuff that from a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't watched the videos, watch them before they go away. Yep,
there's some, and the conversations are pretty good. The sessions are especially good to listen. There's some pretty deep tech in there. So our guys really talking about what it takes to do it and how they think about it and everything else. So that's a great point, Jeffrey. One thing that I had a question for all of you as I was listening this morning. I got in early, but I got in late last night, and then I got up early, and I was a little behind getting set up. And so I just made Grant the host. And there was such a good conversation going on. I just listened to it while I was doing other things. And then I just sat and listened for a little while. And I was thinking about that I think that it could be really interesting. I've been waiting for webinars to have breakout rooms. But one of the things I was considering listening this morning is, what if we actually just created meetings that are the breakout room, like a meeting that had breakout rooms that goes until like 5:55, right? And then at 5:55, everyone leaves they all leave the meeting and go into because you'll all get the announcement, for the whatever. but we have a meeting there. So I may do that as an experiment where we can just start opening up. We may open it up at, we'll see, 5 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing. I'm already up, and just open it up and see who shows up. And then, it's not organized, and you all have to behave yourselves. But the idea is just set up a bunch of rooms that people can kind of hang out in and talk. I think it'd be kind of fun for people to just less pressure than this is. I know that there's some pressure there, so I think that could be kind of fun. Go ahead, Dan, and then Sky.
Yeah, and at Zoomtopia, they talked about adding at the bottom on the ribbon a button that you can simply just hop to that next meeting.
It's not here yet, though.
Yeah, it'll be there soon, I think.
Well, my thought was, I've been slowly moving earlier to see who would show up. Like, how many people will show up if I open it at 5:40, and then tomorrow is how many people will show up if I open at 5:35. And so I was going to move every 4 minutes because that's the sun moves for 4 minutes. And so, but then I was like, I think I'll just do 5. It's just easier to do the math. And so anyway, so I was kind of trying to prepare us for when webinars eventually does it. So the idea is by the time webinars does breakout rooms, it would just stay in there and we would just start. But I was like, I could start early. We could just do an experiment and see if people show up. Kind of fun. Go ahead, Bill.
You're taking me back to where I started, because my very first job was as a paper boy back when they actually had boys do paper boys. And I had to get up on Sunday morning at about 3:30 in order to get the papers prepped and get them to people's houses on time. Now, at this point in my life, you're going to have me back up at 3:30 in the morning again. I just think there's a lot of symmetry to that.
Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to let you sleep in till 3:30. That's the
There you go.
So here's Sky.
Well, speaking of Bill, because I was able to go to the Creative Summit, the happy hours used the breakout rooms, and it was quite interesting in the naming of the rooms. Had nothing to do often with the topic that was inside, but it could be at least a good starting point to advertise. But it's a good thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
I really like the idea to do it before, and I think after would be really cool as well.
No, I was thinking about after. I was gonna get us to after, but I was like, oh, we'll start before and then not overwhelm people. But I think after would be great because there's a whole bunch of things we just talked about, and if we left it for another hour, is that what you're? I'm sorry, I stepped.
Yeah, no, you're cool. I heard a tip recently, and it's got me thinking, and that is at the end of Zoom meetings, if you're the host, to not close the meeting off and kick everyone out, but allow people to leave of their own accord. And often it happens, within 20 seconds, they leave themselves, but it's a different feeling that someone gets when they leave themselves versus the host's end of the meeting.
Well, it's funny because we do it here. We end because, and we just thump out. What's funny is that all of the events I do, we don't do that. Like, I just thought about it when you said that. Like every single event, we play some music and we have a call to action at the end. So, anybody who's still there, you want to tell them to go do something. Like the front slate and the end slate is really valuable real estate that almost nobody uses. Like there's a huge yard there for you to put a big sign that says, go to this website, register here, especially at the end, because whoever's there at the end is the most interested in what you just talked about and the most likely to do something. Like sign up or go somewhere or go whatever, you should use it. Yeah. So I always leave that up. And to your point, it actually, some people take a couple minutes. I think sometimes they just forgot.
Yeah. I have it now with my staff. Whenever we've finished a meeting, we have a saying now. Sometimes we'll just turn our video off and allow people to leave. Right. And then we'll say, hey, can I walk to the elevator with you? Like we've just finished the meeting and now we want to have a debrief of that meeting. We just want to walk to the elevator and walk to the car,
We had a meeting where I cut out the Ferris Bueller thing at the very end of the movie. You're still here? It's over. Go home. The problem is that but you got to get, there was a still for 10 minutes. Like there was a still and then it just cut to this thing where Ferris Bueller's like, you're still here? It's over. And then it cut, but then what happened was it guaranteed that everybody stayed through the still for every other meeting that was like that. Like it just like, and then everyone hooked. They wanted to see what was at the end of it, and I didn't have anything else, and so they only did it a couple of times. They're like, oh, he's going to play the same thing, but it was
next Marvel movie.
I did think about putting Marvel movies in, but it was there was only one of those when I did it. It was years ago for a meeting, for sets of meetings. It wasn't even on Zoom. It was on Hangouts. Bill and then John.
Yeah, I do think it's weird because as you've been running off at the tail end of this to do business stuff, I've been having to close the show, and it's the hardest thing because you can tell that the panel is with you and they want to kind of keep going, and I find it really hard. Part of my is, okay, I want to be responsible, and 9 o'clock is kind of when we've promised it would be over, and people do have to go to work, and so I don't want to, take advantage of that.
Right.
But it's hard to end without an end sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I
Go
just
ahead,
feel like
John.
I'm pulling the plug on something people like.
Yeah, exactly.
I've found as a panelist, the ending is very jarring for me
Right.
when it just ends like that. And I'm just like, whoa, what just happened? Because it's just like, I'm in a groove, I'm being quiet, I'm
very
listening, I'm
curious.
learning.
I'm curious if
And
I left
then-
it open, if people just, it would probably be like there'd be probably a group of 100 people that would just sit there all day, just like chit chatting and more
Yeah.
questions. And
Yeah.
so maybe on a Sunday, we'll let it run a little bit and see
That
what
sounds
happens.
like a good idea.
Yeah. I think that'd be a fun experiment just to see what happens. Okay. We got lots of questions. Just wanted to ask that question there. Okay, go ahead. Bill, what do we got?
Okay, the first question today comes to us from Vincent Alvarez out of Bellingham, and he's interested in the holiday season coming up. At least here in America, we have Christmas, and it's a big thing, and obviously gifts are a part of that. So he's asking what item or gadget, and he's specifying a range of $40 to $120 US. Do you have that still makes you smile or surprises you of its value? Not necessarily AV tech. So he's looking for gift ideas.
Interesting, but it's near Thanksgiving. Go ahead, Paul. Paul's the perfect person to answer this question.
I'm the perfect person. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Here it is, the
so many
Nan light.
things.
And Alex has talked about this a lot.
I have one right here.
He's got one right there. But it's
you show
it's
the
so
front,
cool
see.
because it's magnetic,
Try to rotate it. Yeah.
and you can have it do different colors. This is red. It does green, blue,
Yeah.
and let me show it to you on Amazon here. I'll switch my video to my Black Magic. There we go. There it is on Amazon.
Yep. It's good.
$75.
much is it?
You can
There you
have it by November 30th. And
And it's
it comes
battery
with
operated. It's got a little
case.
little LCD in the back. It's nice. It's a nice little. It's a nice
It's
little.
really, really a neat thing. And then one more thing. Let me
a 2 for
get
1.
back to my
Not,
camera
is
here.
there any extra charge for this?
And then also the Ulanzi tripod. It's an extendable tripod that goes up and down, and it has legs. Perfect accessory for the Nan light.
That's perfect. Excellent. Thanks, Paul. Stuart, then Jeffrey, then John.
Actually, I'll follow on a tip with a brand name that Paul just mentioned before I actually get to what I was going to say. Ulanzi also make anamorphic lenses for phones and tablets that are using the same glass as the Lettuce and Moment anamorphics, but they are a lot cheaper. But as for Christmas gifts, given we're all here working away and putting all these hours in, really great tontine pillows so you can get a good night's sleep afterwards.
Oh, very good. That's good. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Stuart, you sleep? That's crazy. Two things that I always like to go for is one is Lego, and the other one, believe it or not, they're still around, erector set. And the reason why Lego, of course, it explains itself. So erector sets are great because if you ever have a piece that breaks or you're doing something, some sort of modding, you can always grab from that and grab a piece. I remember one time I had a pick guard on my guitar. I had to create a new one, so I used a piece to use it as the piece that holds it. So of course it helps because you can, if you have children, you can teach them how to do what you're doing.
Great. John?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the thing that brings the greatest joy to my life. I just took a second to think, what do I think of? What would I miss the most if I lost it? And it's this, my Apple Watch. I think it's
Little
one
hot.
of the greatest pieces. I'm
A little
sorry.
heavy. No, I'm sorry. It's a little heavy. It's a little expensive. It's over the 120, but it is great. Isn't
Oh, 120 though. Sorry, I
Yep,
missed that
120.
part.
You missed the prices right
Yeah.
part of the question.
Yeah.
But the watch is quite nice. I mean, I used to have actually watches that were more expensive than the Apple Watch. I could never go back.
Yeah.
You know, like
HomeKit switches, that would be my other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
so that
Go
I
ahead.
can I have my lights come on whenever I come home, or when the sun goes down, lights come on in my house, and I don't have to worry about it.
Absolutely. Grant?
I think a good power bank, USB power bank, like and just spend as much as you can afford. Get something with power delivery, the USB-C power delivery, and I just think it. Well, I haven't used it as much with not traveling, but it is, you can use it on so many things, and you love it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, my family always asks me like what I want for Christmas, and I don't reply to that. But they seem to always give me every single year different kinds of multi tools and flashlights, and I don't I don't complain. I like multi tools and flashlights.
That's great. That's awesome. Do you have a tread? The Leatherman tread? Have you seen the Leatherman tread?
I don't think no, I don't have that. What I really like from Leatherman is this Skeletool.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Skeletal's great. The tread is
yeah.
it's a multi-tool but a bracelet. And when I'm doing
Oh yeah, I've seen
like
that.
heavy online production, I wear it a lot and it's super useful. It's just hard to go. Just don't go through security in Iraq with it. It's a lot of conversations. All right, Bill, and then Courtney, and then Brian.
So if they don't have some kind of headphones, buy them a set of headphones. If they do have headphones, go online and see if you can find the suede pad covers for the earphones on these. I've had so many sets of Sony 7506s, and eventually they all start flaking gunk. And so the very first thing I do is add these little suede pads, and they're so nice.
Courtney?
If they don't already have them, a Google Home Mini coupled with the brand new Google Chromecast with Google TV. So you get the Chromecast used to have to use your phone, but now it has a remote and it has a whole interface, and you can load all kinds of streaming apps on there like Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything else. And the two work together. You can tell the Mini to play something on your TV, and it will play.
That's awesome. Brian?
I'll come in under the dollar limit with a book, Orbiting the Giant Hairball by Gordon MacKenzie. And if you're a creative person living in a corporate world, trying to stay alive and keep your creativity, it's a great, simple read, but really, really good stuff.
Okay. Dan?
Someone said headphones. Yeah, I got these Soundcore Bluetooth headphones. They're like $45, and they last, weeks and on a charge.
Oh, not even weeks. They last
last
like
weeks
weeks
on
before they
a
fall apart.
charge.
Then one of them ears falls off.
Every night I
That's
have
good.
to put these on because it's too loud, in the house.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if we said $45, that's great. Jeff?
First, Bill, if you have a link for those headphone suede covers, please put it in the chat, because I have about a half a dozen pairs that are all flaking and leave me covered in black goop. Two things. We're talking multi-tools. Under the $20 limit is a thing called a utility key that fits on your key ring. It's super handy. And second, board games. Get yourself away from screens. Get the family playing board games. I love the game Pandemic because it is cooperative. You are all, and it certainly fits in today's world, but you are fighting a global pandemic together.
I have Scrabble. We play it probably 3 to 5 times a night. I'm sorry, not night, but 3 to 5 times a week when I'm home. The kids and the whole family, we just sit down and play Scrabble. It's like the after dinner thing instead of TV. Is we sit down and play Scrabble, and so that's the. And my kids are slowly learning all the 2-letter words, because that's the key. Like I win a lot because I just know, not because they have a much better vocabulary than I do. They just don't know all the 2-letter words yet. Go ahead, Sky.
I'm just curious. A show of hands. How many people have lost a Leatherman tool at TSA?
I have a story about that.
Oh, okay. I saw the box they had back behind them, just the thousands of dollars. Anyway.
I had the Leatherman Mini that someone had given me, and I was in Zimbabwe, and I was flying from Harare to Victoria Falls, and I walked and I pulled it out. And I said, I got this Mini, and I said, can I just leave it here? I'm only going for the day. I'm going to fly out and fly back. Can I just leave it with you, and then I'll get it back? Oh no, we cannot take that. And I said, but it was a gift. And he looked at me and he goes, okay, you can keep it, but do not do anything bad with it. And I was like, well, like I just like, so he didn't want to deal with it, but he didn't. He was like, it's just a little mini, and Mzungu. My choice is so I'm not going to go techie. It's my favorite thing to do to like just clear my head is actually to make bread. And so my recommendation is a Dutch oven. You can get a large Dutch oven. I'm trying to fit under the budget because you would normally get like a, you can get an Amazon basic enameled on forecourt is good. Dutch oven. The book to get is Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast is the book by Ken. I can't think of Ken's last name. Anyway, so it's a great short book that has a lot of really good tips on how to make bread. You'll need, you can build under $120, you can build a whole little set. So you can have all the things that you need to make the bread, because you need a couple things. You need the thing, you need a little something to work on. You need to buy the yeast. You need to get there's these Cabrio, like I can't think of the name of them, but they're like storage containers, like 12-quart storage containers that you mix inside of and then put the top on. Just make sure to get the right top. You get the wrong top and it won't fit. It's a thing.
Can you get a low carb oven?
Low carb oven? No. And I will warn you. I've already told the story. I've already told the story that I made hundreds of loaves of bread in the fall to try to figure out training ideas. But it's so relaxing, and everybody should know how to make bread. Bread, and you just got to remember that baking is just chemistry that you can eat. And so learning how to make bread and studying it is, after you do the $120 version of it, you buy the Modern Cuisinist's bread select, thing, which someone bought for me. I didn't actually buy it. And it's like $500 on how to do, it's like 5 sets of all the science behind bread with these beautiful cutouts and everything else. I couldn't afford it. I was like, I can't buy that. And a friend of mine bought it for me. So anyway, but the $120 version is a $40 or $50 Dutch oven with that book, the thing. On a Sunday, just saying, on a Sunday, bread cooking in the oven in the morning, it's a good feeling. It's just, even if you only do it once a week, it's just like it's a really, just it smells, the whole house smells good. And then you have this fresh bread and you let it sit for 15 minutes and it crackles. It goes, you hear the bread just crackling after you pulled it out. And then you cut it and it's still warm and the butter melts just because it's hot, not because you put it in the toaster. And it's just the best. Anyway, for all of us that are geeky, I recommend that as an analog thing to do. And I'm gonna try to get the writer of that book on our little show and talk to him about it, because it's I think he's very analytical. He came out of Silicon Valley, out of a tech thing, and just decided he wanted to do something else. Anyway, that's my thing. Stephen, and then Stuart.
The little 511 24-liter pack.
Oh, the Rush 24?
Rush 24. That thing will hold 80 pounds of cables.
That is our
and
standard.
Not break.
Yeah, that's standard issue. That was Pixel Core standard issue. Yes. Like literally, welcome to the Pixel Core. Here's your bag. So Stuart.
2 further items. Firstly, every time you were mentioning bread, I kept having a vision of the Muppet Chef for some reason, and I don't know why. The other thing is, always a good choice is storage media for anybody who's a tech geek. Yep. I believe Samsung Evos are $64 for 250 gig in Australia. That's nice. That's like $5 in America.
Anyway, there's our holiday. That's our holiday season recommendations. All right, next question. That was good. It was a good question. Good.
All right, let's do this, and we're moving to Grant Whitehead. Mickey, can you explain the WLM settings in the bottom panel? So he wants to go beyond just the meters to the settings. Ooh.
Alrighty.
Digging deep now.
Let me spotlight this. Okay. All right, so here we have method. There's EBU, LM1, and dial. EBU enables an algorithm which tries to detect which sound is in the foreground. So if you have that selected, whichever sound is in the foreground, that is what WLM will try to read. LM1 is essentially just flat, and dial enables an algorithm that will try to just listen out for dialogue, so that you can specify what you want the meter to listen to there. channel, yeah, which channel you want WLM to listen to, left, right, or both channels stereo, or if you have a multi-channel file like 51771, you could have it meter that as well. Weighting is so it applies. Ooh, it's getting cut off. Anyway, it applies a certain EQ curve to what the meter is reading. So ITU 1770 is more towards dialogue, and then there's also LEQA, which doesn't it puts less emphasis on the lower frequencies. Then you also have LEQC, I think, which is more like a flat curve. Nothing. It's not applying like a bias to any frequencies. Then LEQM is making sure your shrill sounds appear to be louder, so that you kind of try to turn it down. Um, on the middle here, these are just like your goals. You know what your target is, what in terms of loudness, what you want the true peak max to be, and then your short term max and short term minimum. Those don't affect anything in terms of the actual measurement, but it affects what how the meter, like say when it turns red or when it turns blue. Um, and then here you can just add a high pass filter and low pass filter before the metering. This is just the scale of the meter, so you can adjust that so that if you're measuring more of higher level sounds, you have a larger scale on the higher loudness units. And then here, if you are working on something that's going to broadcast and you really have to deliver something that passes QC, you can export a CSV file with your reading for the entire program. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's
I
great.
guess.
It's perfect.
Nikki, remember you just changed your scale for the one in the panel.
The what was I gonna say? I for some reason when Mickey was explaining that, I didn't really ever think of like equalization as similar to curves in Photoshop. You know, like you have different values and you're basically pulling some up and pushing some down. It's like they're like related. Anyway, just interesting. It's a great question. All right, next question.
Moving on. And Mickey, I think I'm still seeing that as -4 down there. Not that, just somebody coming in late. Philip Oler of Katona, New York says our client is asking to customize their global Zoom meeting where the Zoom window would be inset with a white frame over a custom background. Is there any way to do this at origination? I'm thinking the only way is to take the Zoom meeting into software and live stream that to YouTube.
You could live stream it to anything, by the way. You could do RTMP to other things. If you wanted, like, if you don't want people to be able to click through to Zoom, you could send it to something like Vimeo or Livestream or other, CDNs that let you do that. So you don't have to do that. But I don't think that there's any way to take the Zoom app solution and insert it into anything. Zoom's pretty protective about that. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, they are. They are doing a little more with the virtual backgrounds, which we dislike greatly.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, but they are doing a foreground, virtual foreground, and that could be interesting. And so if they
lower thirds and stuff like that.
Yeah, if they open that up and allow you to do an overlay, then you could do a thin border, or you could give everyone a border. You could do quite a few different things all within Zoom. But obviously the only way at the moment is just scraping the screen, bring it into something and doing it that way.
There's going to be some point where we have to, everyone in the panel has to have one that makes us all look like we're looking out of submarine windows. It's like overlay with a little window. I think it's going to be the key. And it'd be yellow, big yellow. We're all on a yellow submarine. Anyway,
Disney Nautilus ride. Somebody needs to find an old screen cap of that.
Yeah, go ahead, Sky.
Oh, I would suggest looking at StreamYard. If I know there's lots of other solutions out there, but unless they're locked into Zoom, but StreamYard does give you that ability to have a backdrop or background.
Next question.
Next question comes to us from Matt Cooley in the panel. not in the panel today, Montreal, Canada. We've moved to rechargeable batteries for all our wireless mics and in-ear packs for all of our productions. We've had decent success with Ansmann AA and 9-volt batteries and chargers. Does anybody know of anything that is better?
Go ahead, Stuart.
Will mention Eneloop.
Stuart?
Yeah, I'm going to upset people and say alkaline. Check out your user manual. A lot of devices that run on 9-volt batteries and AA batteries require a specific voltage and a specific current. If you put the wrong sort of rechargeable batteries in it and it's able to provide too much current, you will burn out your electronic device.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of in terms of the batteries themselves, the Eneloop Pros, and also the IKEA Lada batteries. I think they are just rebranded Eneloops as well. And in terms of the chargers, I'm a big fan of the PowerX Maha, I think, chargers. But yeah, the chargers from PowerX.
Bill?
Yeah, I standardized on Eneloops a long time ago, and it was great because Costco, the big membership club, used to have these great packs that had tons of Eneloops and really good chargers for a really good price. So that was my go-to.
The big thing with you guys will have to tell me how, the way we look at rechargeables though is we use them for a couple shows and then we distribute them to the crew. Like we don't use them for that many shows in a row. I mean, we use them. I mean, when I say a couple shows, I mean like 50 shows, but we tended to retire them to the crew pretty quick, like because their voltage tended to drop off faster over time. And we just, we're very paranoid about that. And so we didn't throw them away. There's lots of people, there's still a lot of life in them, but not life that we wanted to put a high profile individual on, and let them go at it. So we tended to keep new ones. They're not expensive enough to be worth taking any risk on it. Grant, and then Mickey, and then Jeff.
So as a sound engineer with a a cappella band, we use all the radio mics and we use all the packs for the in-ears. And so we have 60 batteries that we use, all the AA's, and we tested a whole bunch and we use the IKEA ones. They work awesome. And we just have a process now. We do a whole show and the sound check of the next show with one set. And then before the show, we set over to the freshly charged ones, and that normally will handle the whole show, and then the sound check of the next show.
And you find there's any degradation over time after they've been charged, recharged, charged, recharged, charged, recharged?
Yes, but the high capacity ones they last so long. I mean, they're all in G4 Sennheiser mics and stuff. They're low power consumption anyway, but.
Oh no, I'm talking like AAs, like double
yeah,
A.
I know. Yeah. So it is double A's, and I know that the capacity is going down, but but they are such high capacity to start with. They're way more than we need for like a 2-hour show.
Right. Got it. Yeah, Mickey.
Yeah, the IKEA Ladas are great because they're white and you can write on them on a Sharpie. I write the date that's purchased, and once after a year and a half, I don't use them on wireless anymore. They go down to lower consumption devices like slates, for example. And yeah, so and after like about 2 years, then they're cycled out. But for situations where I need like super long runtime, wherein like reality, for example, wherein I don't know when's the next time I can switch out batteries, then I go to lithium AA's.
Yep. Jeff.
I'm not sure what wireless system Matt's using, but like with the Shure systems, they have their own rechargeable batteries that recharge right into the Shure device, so you can drop them in a charger without having to remove the batteries, and you get something like 11 hours out of it, and you get report directly back to the receiver of what the battery time is. So those are really handy. They are not cheap. I think they're about $110 for the battery, and the chargers are really expensive, but they're worth their weight in gold in certain systems.
Absolutely. Courtney.
Yeah, one thing nice about the Eneloops, they come pre-charged, and they have a fairly long shelf life, hold a charge over, so they have a very low self-discharge rate. So once you charge them up to 70 or 80% at least, they'll hold that charge up to a year without self-draining. So
it's awesome. Next
Bill,
question.
Bill, could you put that Eneloops in the Makana?
Yeah, I'll see if I can. I mean, they're all over the place. It's Panasonic's brand, I think, for rechargeables, so they're virtually everywhere. But yeah, absolutely. All
Next
right,
question.
moving to the next question, and it's Paul Edison Lamb, who says, what would the panel recommend for a nonprofit returning post-COVID to PowerPoint lecture presentations in a large academic lecture hall using volunteer labor and a budget of $1,000 to $2,000 for equipment? What would you recommend as far as cameras, switchers, audio, and so forth? And he has a note here. Alex has mentioned perhaps a couple of times why hybrid productions are ghastly. So we'll be creating subsequent YouTube videos by feeding in both the PowerPoint slides and the camera on the speaker. Underlying IT infrastructure is maybe 20 to 30 years old.
I'm just trying to think through lecture. So we're going to assume when you say lecture, there's going to be a person talking. That and that because there's slides, they're going to be standing somewhere. so like you can decide, because the thing is when you get into a lower cost, you want to think about whether you're going to give them a wireless mic, for instance, because that's going to eat up a big chunk of your budget to do it well. And so you want to think about possibly having like a podium mic, that's going to be, out there, that they can stand in front of, to do it. If you want them to walk around, again, you're just using up a big chunk of your budget for them to walk. So, I think that'd be one piece of that. I mean, the reality is that with a single mic, I mean, you need very little to put it into a camera. If you have control over it, you can just drop it straight into a camera, and then cut back and forth. At that point, you could almost fit the whole budget. If you do that, you could fit the whole budget into even something like a little Blackmagic 6K with a mini, and a mic, and an input, and you end up under $2,000 with a really good looking set of stuff that's there. But you could also get smaller HDMI cameras. You just won't be able to shade them and make adjustments to them. But and the Blackmagic one is kind of you're buying into a system that's going to keep on growing if you get more budget. But to that point, though, you could get a couple cameras if you wanted to there. But Mickey, go ahead, Mickey, and then Bill.
Yeah, I would assume like a lecture hall might already have like microphones there. But yeah, if ever there's none, like I would maybe get a podium mic or like an SM50A with a gooseneck arm.
I mean, the other question there is really, if you're just doing a single person doing a presentation, do you really need them to be at a lecture hall as opposed to just sitting in front of a desk where you can light them well and give them a headset mic and let them do their thing straight into the camera? The facade of we're doing it at a lecture hall, I'm not sure if it makes sense. And I don't think you even say lecture hall here. I think you have, in large academic lecture halls. But what I would do is, if nobody's in the hall and you're not doing a hybrid, why? And that gets back into us trying to make something look like something that we were used to in the past, as opposed to building something that for the future. I will say that I'm now rebuilding. I'm rebuilding my kit now that everything's slowed down a little bit. So when I get this all back up, you'll see my system fully operational again. And in that system, I would never want to lecture anywhere else. Like I want to lecture here because I've got, I can draw and I can talk and I can go to things and I can jump around and I can have all the conversations. I wouldn't want to, like people have asked me to speak. I think Justine Ezrix, as I think I said before, was the last time I spoke in public, like in a group, because I felt like it was so inefficient. And it was hanging out with Justine was great. The AV experience there was horrible. So I was like, this is why I don't do this anymore. Go ahead, Mickey, and then Jeffrey, and then Bill.
And just one last thing on the camera side of things, 1 to 2K is quite tight. So I would probably try to look into the secondhand market, maybe an old EX1 or EX3. Those are pretty darn good cameras, and I'm sure you could find them for a decent price nowadays.
Yep, absolutely. Jeffrey, and then Bill.
Yeah, 1 to 2K is very, very tight. One thing that I would recommend is don't ever skimp on the audio. The audio's got to be the most important thing out of there. So don't go buy $30 wireless mics, because you're just going to have problem after problem after problem. And then the camera, it really depends on, excuse me, whether the camera's in the back of the room or the front of the room. You're going to get a cheaper camera if you can put the camera in the front of the room. It doesn't have like a 50x
and again,
really, optical zoom or anything like that.
Yeah, keep coming back to really think about whether you need to be in a room, like a big old room. It's going to give you bad audio. It's going to be wide. It's a bunch of technical issues. You can just sit in their office and make it nice. You could have an office that looks and sounds really good. The lecture halls are you're basically kneecapping yourself in that area if there's nobody in the room. If there's somebody in the room, but you're making you're adding a whole bunch of things that you don't really need. And Jeffrey, you're coming in a little hot. Bill?
Murphy's Law. I used to run into this a lot because I used to shoot for the National Speakers Association. So I did lots of video standing at the back of the room with a camera shooting somebody who was talking against a slide presentation of some kind, PowerPoint or something. And the number one thing that used to drive me nuts is that you'd get a speaker who was not fixed at the podium, and they would always walk over in front of the screen, lighting them with the projector. And at that point, as somebody who was doing the post editing, I could not use their shot because they looked ghastly. And so I would have to stay on their content a lot. Yeah. So at least get the picture well above the headline of your speaker if you've got to record in this kind of circumstance.
And the other thing to remember is that untrained speakers, and most instructors are untrained, have lots of tics. Like when you do this, when you do what we do a lot, you just get used to what their tics are. And so they'll do repeated, tend to be like repeated things that they do over and over again that are kind of annoying if you actually pay attention to them. So those are using your hands over and over to go like this over and over again. It is pacing, especially if you're filming somebody, pacing is a disaster. Like, pacing is like the worst thing you can do as a speaker, because what you've done is the back camera now has to pull wide and move around and refocus and everything else. When you see trained speakers who have actually been trained for stage, you'll see a very specific behavior when they're trained well. And that is they move from one mark to another. And when they rehearse, you'll notice that they make that mark. There's an X on the floor and they walk to that X and they say what they're going to say. And while they're making another point that's not important, not the thing that was important, they walk to the other X. So in the transitions, they walk to the next mark. And they keep on walking to another mark wherever they want to make it. And they're walking to those marks for a specific reason. But when they make their point, their feet never move. And because it gets driven into them. Because when you're trained, there's somebody in the audience just telling you to stop doing that. You've given someone permission to brick you, and so you get bricked to not pace, because when you don't pace, it means the camera operators can zoom in and lock in focus. So when you're making your point, and you're going to say what you're going to say, it gives the camera operators the legs that they need to make you look the best. Like that, because that's all the reason as a speaker, that's all that matters. You look good. So anyway, that's what we tell the speakers anyway. So all these instructors have these. Almost all instructors have these nervous tics, or not nervous tics, but just tics that they do. And seated, they have a lot less of them. My nervous tic, by the way, is I do this. So I grab this when I talk. So I'm trying to move away. First step's a minute, you have a problem. Anyway, Hasmukh, and then Grant, and then John.
Yeah, in a similar situation, Grant is joining me tomorrow with a meeting with the Cape Town Medical School. What he does not know is that I'm going to use him as a ramrod to pulverize the school into submission and agree that they're gonna move from the lecture hall to a sit-down studio so that the presenters can handle the Q&A. So Grant, there's a heads up for you for tomorrow.
I mean, it's again, I'm going to keep on coming back to it. It is so great as a speaker when you have a bunch of people in front of you over Zoom. You have extra monitors. You're not trying to, your audio is better. Everything's better when you don't. If there's people in the room, that's fine. If there's people in the room, hybrid events stink. Welcome to hybrid events. I've been paid lots of money to do them, and they never work. And so they never work for the people online. If you think that they're working for the people online, you're just telling yourself that so you feel better about doing it. To them, so they never work. And so then you might as well go to nothing. And if you're going to go to nothing, you might as well sit down and have a bunch of screens in front of you. Go ahead, Grant, and then John.
I do lots of this type of thing, the conferences with, death by PowerPoint. And one of the things that I had to build was something that would, for these PowerPoint, it was a player. And so I made a player that generates a thumbnail for each one of the slides in their PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
So when they come to view it, they can click on any one of the slides and it'll go jump to that section.
That's
and
great.
so I've done a few iterations of that. My point for telling you all of that is that when you talk about ticks, a surprising number of people, maybe half of the people that do these education lectures, they have this thing where when they click like a DSAN, like a perfect cue, when they click it, they take a breath. So they click and then go, and then they start. And so what happens is, the reason I know it is when I'm doing my quality control, I'll go through and I'll just click a few of the slides, make sure that it's all right. And every time, all I hear is every time after they've hit the slide, they take this big deep breath in. It's like this nervous tick that happens. Yeah.
When we first started doing podcasts, the breathing in, I just felt like I was so unprofessional because I was breathing in, and so I would go through the podcast and remove all the breaths. The early, This Week in Medias and everything else, I would just go through and it only took me about 10 minutes to do it. Because like once you get used to it, you can just see it in the waveform. But the funny thing was then I was listening to NPR and I heard these huge breaths, and then I was like, oh, it's just there all the time. I just didn't notice it until then. I've ruined it all for you now because you'll all listen to NPR now because they have these really expensive Neumanns and they don't have time to go through because it's live or it's whatever. And they're breathing in all the time. You can hear it. And what's funny is you can hear how they've designed how a professional will naturally take breaths at certain points, because it's not, well, some VO artists will, I used to tick it. I used to have like a little carrot where I was going to breathe if it was complicated. But they don't all do that. They just, you naturally do it in a certain way, but it's interesting. Go ahead, John and then Courtney.
Yeah, just Paul put in that the club wanted to meet in person, so it looks like he's going to have some full lecture hall, so it's going to have to suck a little bit.
Yep, Courtney.
Yeah, one suggestion I was going to make, since the question is talking about post-COVID returning to,
there you go. Sorry about
presentation
that.
hall.
I missed that part. Yeah.
Is that
so 2024?
Yeah, sometime in 24. Yeah, do a wide shot because this is going to involve projection in a probably lighted room. So the screens never look good in that type of situation. So do a wide shot at the back, a lock off at the back that includes the lectern with the person speaking, and a wide shot that includes the entire screen. And then in post, you can cut to that shot and insert an electronic version of the PowerPoint shrunken down and paste it into where the screen goes, and it'll be clear and correctly exposed.
The hardest part with that is how much time you have for post. I mean, I think that what I would try to do with a lecture.
Well, if it's a lock off, and once you cut the mat, then it's it's really easy. You just run it.
Yeah, for me the lecture, it's not a good idea in the first place. So usually if someone says they want to do a lecture, I just want to put it on a live switch and switch it because, how good is it actually going to be? Anyway, sorry, Bill and then Stuart.
Well, and one of the reasons Alex's point is important, hitting your mark, is because if you put somebody on a mark, you can light them well so that when they land on their mark, they look great. They don't have any weird shadows or stuff like that on them.
When you get guys there are some companies, I think I've mentioned them before. I'm not going to mention their names, but the speakers get 2 to 3 hours a week of training, like every day, every week, year round. I understand that the first couple months is like what they call an ontological grinder, because they get just ripped apart, and they get conscious of, and they can't speak when they go through the first part because they're so self-conscious that when they get up, all they can think about are their ticks. Like all they can think about is what they did and what's not working. They can't even be present and they can't remember anything because they've been rattled so hard and beaten up on how to speak. And then they settle into it and they're amazing. They're amazing speakers. For the company, it's not something I like to listen to. I mean, it's not bad, it's just boring, but they make it great, because it's a really, really energetic and focused and they probably got trained by somebody that was really good at doing presentations. Anyway, Stuart.
2 points. Firstly, going on from those ticks and movements, if people are after a example of people who can do presentations and stay on the spot, go across to TED Talks on YouTube and type in prosthetics as your search term, you'll find 2 videos there, one from a woman who's a double leg amputee and has different size legs depending on what she's doing, and another about robotic limbs and talking about enabling a young woman to be able to dance again. And if that one doesn't bring tears to your eyes, you're not human. But the people who are doing those presentations, for obvious reasons, are very good at staying still. So they stay in the one place. And one item about the budget that Paul put in the question, the very last sentence of his question is kind of important, where it's the underlying infrastructure is maybe 20 to 30 years old. So you need to spend some of that budget on making sure you've got at least gigabit internet at that point where you're doing the presentation.
And basically don't just ignore it. If it's 20, 30 years old, I would just ignore all the infrastructure and just run wires. Like just run them along. I would just be part of my setup. I wouldn't even touch it. I wouldn't even try. Next question.
Moving on to John Pruitt of Huntersville. How do you get used to so many things rubbing your ears between monitors, mics, glasses? It drives me a bit nuts.
What do you mean by that, John?
So I've got these over-the-ear microphone. I've got these in-ear monitors that have their little things here, and then I got my glasses, and it's just rubbing me really badly right here, and I can't get it adjusted right. And I'm just wondering, how do you guys get used to it?
Practice. That's how you get good at anything. Yeah, if you ever listen to my kids, they're like, "I'm not very good at this yet," and I'm always like, "How do you get good at it?" And they're like, "Practice." So anyway.
So just wear it is what you're saying.
Yep. Just nug through it. Embrace the suck. All right. Anyway, next question.
I would also add clips help because it takes some strain relief off. Next question. And James Babbitt of San Diego says, "Hi, Alex. You mentioned making a mobile setup for your mic on office hours by putting a phone back in your ear, a phone ack in your ear, and using a belt pack. Which connector would you use for the Countryman mic? Which in-ear ack and which wireless belt pack would you use?" Is he using ack for talkback?
Yeah. So what I'm probably going to get. I think what I'm going to get for what I'm doing is a phone ack in ear and the Countryman with I haven't figured out. I'm probably going to end up using the Sound Devices wireless system, the audio limited.
A10, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to get the A10 for that, and so I'm going to so that'll be the Countryman into the A10 for the transmission, and then I'll use a phone ack for it. It's expensive. It's not like I'm not going cheap. But again, what I'm trying to test is not that is incredibly expensive and a huge waste of time if all I'm going to do is sit in front of you. What I'm testing over time and everything else is how far away can I get and how stable is it and how long do the batteries last and how many, and how comfortable is it, to do those things. Those are the things I'm trying to figure out so that we can do. Next year, I have big plans to do kind of more interactive things where we're on sets or we're in locations and we're talking about stuff. We're outside, and I'm just trying to figure out like best in class of those types of things. And I'll probably get some less expensive ones too. But that's kind of I usually have a tendency, if you haven't noticed, is I tend to save up money, and then I just buy something that I think will last for a very long time. And so rather than buying a lot of in between things, although I have some of those too. So, anyway, that's probably what I'm going to get for it. Again, it's way too much for what we're doing here. But Mickey was shaking his head. I saw that. I saw like that when I was mentioning the mic. You're not sold on the mic or the transmitter?
The audio limited, right now specifically in terms of runtime on batteries, they're not great, and they're quite the heat generator. So,
are they?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. All right. But I'm going to try them, stay in the family. Next question.
We have another one from James Babbitt. Hi, Mickey. Even after the sound checks, if there is suddenly some loud audio, would you adjust the level during the live program?
Say for example, like if someone starts to project or yell, they should naturally sound louder. than when they're normally speaking. But if it gets like too much, too loud, it starts to get uncomfortable, then yeah, faders on the board adjust. But you don't want to kill the dynamics that much.
Next question.
Moving on to Kenny Hampton, who has a YouTube question. I need to create a Premiere event, creating a link now for marketing event happening in a couple of weeks. The problem is the video content has not been edited yet, so I have nothing to post with the event creation. Is there a way to add video to and exiting an event link?
I don't know enough about the Premiere system to know that. I think that's my problem. Go ahead, Benjamin.
I have a limited understanding of the Premiere system, but as best as I can tell, you have a single piece of media that you are showing live. You schedule it almost like a calendar event, and it goes live when you tell it to. I believe you cannot use multiple clips. You have to combine it in some others.
Right, but I think that you have to upload that clip when you create the event. I don't know if you can paste I think that you have to have the clip complete before you can post the Premiere. I think that's the part I don't know. The only time I've ever done it, I haven't done it that many times, because usually when I want to do a Premiere event, I just go live. Like I just stream it live when I want to go stream it live. I don't have it go live at a certain time. And so anyway, Jeff, and here's one of the problems with that, by the way, with the Premiere event. The reason that I don't do it very often is that I want to warm the edge. So I want to start my video. I want to tell everyone it's starting at 5 o'clock, let's say, but I really want to start the video at 4:55 because but I don't want to have like a 5-minute thing from 5 to 5:05. So if you do the Premiere and it just starts hard on that thing, you want it to be the content, but now you're not warming the edge, and for the vast majority of your viewers, they'll miss the first 3 to 5 minutes. So those are things to kind of think about. That's why I have a tendency to want to time that, and the Premiere didn't let me do it, at least when I tried. Like I thought about it and I was like, well, I don't really want it to do that, because I don't want to advertise it at 4:55. Anyway, Jeff.
You're correct that the video must be uploaded as you create the Premiere event. YouTube does add a visual countdown ahead of the Premiere.
Okay.
And it seems to be tracked to the time. So like an hour event might create a 5-minute countdown
but you can't customize that, right?
No, they do it. It's not your option. The other option, they cannot be unlisted. So they have to be a public Premiere. So if you want to do an unlisted event, what I did was just pre-make the video, have it in a hyperdeck, and someone actually hit play. And we put a countdown into that and ran it a couple of minutes ahead of time, so that it was live. People knew it was coming a few minutes beforehand.
Is that countdown clock overlaid over top of your thumbnail, or is it just a whole screen?
Whole screen.
That's unfortunate. They used to have, one of the things we used to do with the thumbnail is that when you get to an event before the event started, when you've scheduled an event, it has all the graphics that they throw in, and we built a template that would tell us where all those graphics were. So then we would design our thumbnail so that all those graphics just looked like they were part of the thumbnail, and we'd always kind of build it out so that the problem was YouTube would change it all the time. So we'd build one out, and then like a week before our event, suddenly nothing matched, and it was all over top of stuff, and it looked like we screwed it up. And it was, so anyway, that was the challenge with that. But go Bill, and then Benjamin.
Too bad they haven't done something like Vimeo. One of the reasons I love Vimeo Pro is that it has a replace the video but leave everything else about it exactly as was. So view counts and everything else, and you just go in and slip there. And we use that all the time as people find a little error as we're going through a video, and we just replace it, and it gets better all the time.
Yeah, it'd be nice if YouTube made that tool more available. It's not that it's not available; it's just not publicly available. But Benjamin.
Oh, Jeffrey, looks like you were first, but sorry, just real quick. I've had a whole bunch of events like this, and I've been opting to use Vimeo with Restream. Restream has a similar feature to YouTube Premiere, and you can schedule a couple minutes of pre-roll countdown, and it'll go live just like you want without any of their stuff. So kind of like doing a hyperdeck, just kind of automated in the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeffrey.
Yeah, Premiere was basically made so people could create their videos and then watch along with the other people. So adding stuff to it is just not possible. If you need to add stuff, then you should schedule a live event and then use a software or cloud software like a Restream or something like that to push video into that live event and run it that way.
one thing that I still haven't gotten around to doing, but I think we're going to do soon is a Netflix party. Is that still running? I think it is, where you can we can be on the same queue head and then we can all talk about it. It's kind of like what we do for our events, but we could do it for like Netflix shows. We can all sit around and talk about it. I think that would be fun. That's the advantage of doing these, is syncing everybody up, whether they're doing chat or other things. Next question.
James Babbitt is back from San Diego with, hi, Alex. There are several options when configuring a Countryman H6 microphone. Would you choose directional or omnidirectional, and which sensitivity would you choose? W5, standard gain for general speaking, W6 for speaking and vocals, or W7 for very powerful vocals?
I believe I use the W5. I thought that they all come with all of them, but I'm not certain. They're little tips, I think. But W5 for that, and then I always get omnidirectional. I never get the directional. I don't like the sound of the directional ones. So I feel like the omnidirectionals always sound better. Go ahead, Mickey, and then Jeff.
Yeah, as the name says, like W5, if it's just normal speaking, those little caps that come with it, those are high frequency boost caps. So the shorter ones increase add some brightness.
But Mickey, they can only do that by lowering the stuff below that, right? They're not active, so they can't actually boost. Don't they just roll off the lower stuff to emphasize the high?
And then you turn it up.
Yeah.
then you get more of the high. Go ahead.
No, they're acoustic. They work on the pressure, so they do boost acoustically.
Okay.
Do they?
And then the 567 is just gain. Right. So it's where the mic's going to clip. So the 7 is a lower gain for loud vocals.
Interesting.
Nikki?
And yeah, the lower the sensitivity, it essentially means there's a resistor in the chain. That's pretty much it.
Next question.
Moving on to Denny Hampton. Does Zoom offer a built-in closed caption option for meetings? If not, any solution suggestions? Thank you.
It does. So you can definitely do captions inside of Zoom meetings and webinars, I believe. And you add captioning in the web interface as an option. And then the way we do it, there's a couple different ways to do it. There is I haven't been on the other end of it. So we hire captioners and they're able to either push straight in. They can push straight in, or they can use a token and hand it off to a third-party service. When they use the token, our experience is that the quality of the captions are significantly lower. So whatever the services that they're using to do that is not, we get all kinds of weird line breaks and errors and everything else in them. So we're not that excited about it. So we look for captioners who can interface directly with Zoom. And I actually don't, I have to talk to a captioner. It's hard when you're not sitting next to a captioner because they've got all the software and hardware and trying to figure out, but we have a handful of captioners that can caption directly into Zoom without going through the token system. And when they do that, the latency is about 3 seconds less and the quality is about twice what it is. And so that's what you're wanting to look for, are captioners that can do that directly. And it's a great service. It works. I mean, when you use that system, it's magical. Like it looks really, really good, and it operates correctly, which is more than we can say about Facebook and many other platforms where their captions look like they shouldn't be there. Dan, and then Courtney, and then Benjamin. Did you have a comment, Dan? Did I see that?
Only that. Yeah. It's you. I think they were alluding. Is it automatic? And it's not. You have to manually do that closed captioning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. These are human beings on the other side typing away.
Teams,
I don't. Yeah,
Teams does that.
Rev.com does do an automated version for Zoom for like $20 a month per user, about 80% accurate. So it's if you're trying to check the mark that said we provided captions, Rev is great. If you're trying to actually have things that people aren't going to be frustrated with, Rev is not as great. Courtney, and then Benjamin.
That was pretty much my question. Is it an AI engine that does voice recognition and to captioning? And Google has a pretty good engine at recognition to caption, but I'm not sure about Zoom. I don't know what engine they're using, if they're using AI or if it's only manually inserted.
I think it's just external. It's just Rev. Rev does it, and theirs is all AI. And there's a bunch of engines that are pretty darn good, but they're still, a lot of it has to do with the quality. The problem is Zoom doesn't, you have a lot of people with bad mics, and then then the AI has to figure out how to do it. That's how, like, that's why re-speaking is so, re-speaking is the funniest thing, because it's someone sitting there listening to you talk and then just saying it again. And that's why they call it re-speaking. But it's the funniest thing that just has someone's repeating. But what they're doing is they have a known mic with an AI trained to their voice, and they're trained to that AI system. So they're speaking in the cadence that's required with clean audio, and that's all they do. And then the AI gets, I would say re-speaking is within a couple percentage points as accurate as someone doing it by hand, and the training is a fraction. Instead of 2 years, I think it's like 6 months of training to do it. So it's easier to ramp up. They're really popular in Australia because of a lot of the laws there that require heavy captioning everywhere for multiple languages and everything. And all classes, I think, there has to be CART in like every class or something like that. It's pretty intense, but it's created a big business there to do it. There's a company called AI actually that does a lot of that. Benjamin?
Zoom not too long ago introduced some kind of automatic transcription captioning system, which provided a really nice sidebar that showed who was saying what. And although quality and accuracy was not ideal, certainly worse than a human, it seemed to be okay just to check that box, a native in Zoom option.
What I will say is that is the one place that Google Meet, or Google, is it Meet? Yeah, Meet, strips out, outdoes Zoom. Is Google Meet's automatic captioning is stunningly good, like stunningly good. If you turn on captioning in Meet, even in a technical meeting, you'll be kind of amazed that it just grabs all the right words. It figures it all out. Now they have the advantage of YouTube, which is that they, basically have analyzed all those clips and figured it out and done a lot of the groundwork for years to make their stuff work well. But that's why the Google engine is so powerful. But their Meet, that's the one place, if you absolutely have to have captions and you don't want to pay for it, or you want the best captions you can get for AI right now, in my opinion, that'd be Meet. Next question.
Sorry, I was muted. Moving on. Larry Great Jacobson says, I use a Pile Mic TechRise C920 with a China ball as a mobile rig. A friend wants a Pile TechRise priced camera option and needs wide angle. He runs a group monthly with 5 guys on his end talking to, I think it's leaders. It's all over the state. Does a functional low-end USB camera exist?
Grant?
I didn't read the last sentence. But I was going to say that the C920 does a 78-degree field of view. The Brio does a 90-degree. It's selectable. There's 3 selectable options, but the Brio will do a 90-degree, which is really nice and wide, would work fine. But it's not low end.
It's like, when you say leaders all over the state, what goes through my head is, do a car wash sale or something, get a 920 or a Brio or a Huddle camera, whatever, but don't skimp on your camera. Like just find the money to do it. If you're sending them out, I get it, but it's just, so if you're sending out these to all the leaders and you're not getting them back, maybe that's the solution. Then let them, but once you get under $50, I feel like there's not much, it's not that much better than your laptop cameras at that point. Like, it's just not, you're not really distinct. There's nothing distinguishing. And where you see it is the low light performance drops off dramatically. So the low light drops off dramatically, as well as the frame rate. And when they're cheating on the frame rate. So what they're doing is they're adding motion blur. And so you'll notice that if you'll always see me when I test them, I'll turn on a webcam and you'll see me go like this. I just rock back and forth, because what I'm looking for is the motion blur. And a lot of these cheaper ones will have a lot of motion blur, because what they're hiding is that they're really doing 15 frames a second, and it's lower processing. And so they give you just more motion blur, so it doesn't stutter so much. So,
how many car washes in an Alex?
It depends on what kind of car and how well you do it, So I think you could. There's some cars and some services that you could do, and just a couple.
You go for the aftermarket wax or not?
Exactly. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah. Doesn't the C922 have a wider field of view as well? That might be,
The C930 also
option.
does. C930 is, I believe, an 80 something like an 85 or something, or maybe more. I don't like it because of that, because it's really wide. You can't use it for a single person. The C930 is really an office room, like a wide angle for that. And so that's why we tested a couple of them and then never used them. We did use them, if you go back, if you look at the ILM, 40th anniversary for Empire Strikes Back, there's an ILM one up there, and they had 930s, and we ended up using all those 930s, and it was kind of nice. So that was the one time that because it was like you got to see Phil Tippett's office, which is chaotic, and Lauren Peterson's thing, and we hid like a little elephant, and Lauren Peterson, like one of the elephants from Jumanji in the background, and you got to see a wide angle of Dennis Murin's, office. And so that was exposing that was kind of fun. But in general, I wouldn't want a wide angle one. I still think the best one for a single person talking is the Precision HD from Cisco, which is no longer made. And it had a 50, I believe a 50 or 55 degree field of view. It was just perfect. It's just a perfect field of view for a person sitting in front of, and it also had a 1-inch chip. That was like 8 years ago, like a 1-inch chip on a webcam. And so its low light performance is good. People look good, but when the COVID started, at one point I had 20 of them. I'm really sorry I got rid of them because COVID started. They were selling for $1,000 each on eBay, Paul.
I really like this BCC 950. It's got this remote that you can control it with, and I can zoom in and out. See, I can go out, I can go in, I can pan. It's just a great camera, pretty decent. What do you think about the resolution, Alex? Do you like the resolution of this?
How much is it?
It's on, I buy it in pieces on eBay, and I get real great deals, but you have to really shop hard to do that. The bases are going for like $15, and then if you can get the heads, they're pretty cheap. But if you buy it new, it's a couple hundred, something like that.
Yeah, so it's a little over the budget. If I was going to spend a couple $100 on it, I'd still get a Brio. Yeah, you're not as sharp as that, on that one. But you have more control. You have a little controller. You don't have that with the Brio. By the way, if you buy a Brio, always update the firmware. The older firmware really stinks, and you really need the newer one. Anyway, next question.
Moving on, we're moving to Brian Bavito out of Detroit, Michigan. Any suggestions for the best micro 4/3 lens? Most presenters are sitting relatively close to the camera, but it might be standing back in the room a bit. And he wants to note I should add this is for Zcam E2C, and we have control over the camera via IP.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would go with the Panasonic, the Lumix 12 to 24. 24 to 70 is the best one. But the Olympus, which you can't find anymore, would actually be better. It's 24 to 40. I think that'd be my preference.
Yeah, those are good. Those are both good lenses. Next question.
Moving on, and this comes from Jeff Francis on the panel, Columbia, South Carolina. Planning a holiday jazz concert alumni event. Need ideas to make the event more interactive and engaging. So you're putting this on the web, right?
So we're going to skip this one because Jeff just walked out.
Good. Good.
So Jeff's not. He has a little sign that says "Be right back." So let's.
All right.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Jeff's back. Jeff's back. All right. There we go. All right. Jeff is back with us here. So so ideas for a jazzy concert. So number one, something that I think that Blue started. Blue Melnick has started this, and it got me going on it. And then we've seen a couple events go by that you start sending people things. Like if they sign up and you have any kind of budget, sending people little gift boxes is kind of cool. To send things that they can kind of play with. Whether it's like we're sending out this. We're sending out these big kits. They're big kits that we're sending out, and we're putting a box in them that is like little cookies and stuff like that, and the box is say craft services. like we're sending out the products, and we're sending little craft services out, for them to have a little something. So thinking about things that you can send out to people is kind of fun. As far as I don't know if that's in the budget or not, but little and the thing is to think about. We're not doing this yet, but you can find sponsors that will underwrite that. If for different different events, you can find people that will pay for that as long as their thing goes out with it. It's not, trying to get things in front of people right now super valuable. So like the people are really interested in that process. So I do think that the meeting, breakout rooms is a thing. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, and just on that, sending that little box out, as part of that, we would use the smallest FedEx box you can get, and
Yeah.
so and then work out what you can jam into it, and then using little things like emojis on a little stick, things like that they can hold up. Now that's when it's all on Zoom. But if it's just a straight up live stream, the thing that I'd be thinking about, particularly with jazz, is the improvisation, is kind of surveying the audience about who's taking the next solo, or how many bars do they each solo get, or just to actually really mix it up, and kind of make it interactive so that it makes it harder for them or something, or they say, this is the song we're going to do, what time signature is it going to be in, or like something like that, just to really make it super interesting.
Yep. Go ahead, Sky.
We have an event that we just booked a bunch of bankers, and these are awesome ideas. So Jeff, you and I should talk, because Grant, that again, those party things that we used to do at the photo booths at that's a brilliant concept. The cookies idea. I guess the question was going to be, how much stuff can you get in one of those? All things can go into this box for the U.S. But the United States Postal Service has one of those too. So you just reverse engineer all things that can go into that box, is what we said.
Well, and it's a function of the budget too. I mean, we've done ones where, so if you work with certain companies that, you're working in their ad group or whatever, and how they're interacting with their clients, budget is no longer really a thing, right? Like you can do whatever you want. So you can fit those in if you have hundreds of people. But we did one where we did wine tastings.
Yeah.
So it was wine and cheese pairings that we would actually send out to everyone. And then we would have, we did ones where we had the winery that supplied the wine, and the cheesemaker that supplied the cheese was in the hangout in that case. And we would do them one over other, and they would say, okay, cut it up, and then have this little piece with this and this little piece with that. And they would talk about why they pair, and they talk about what the notes are and all the little things that are there, and everything else. It was like, I was left with, why aren't people doing this all the time? And in COVID, it'd be really interesting. And those are, again, those kinds of things are the kind of thing that you might be able to find local folks that just want to get in front of people. I mean, that want to send out a little wine bottle or whatever.
Well,
maybe that's not the right thing, but I'm just saying that, but those kinds of pairings and those kinds of little things can be, I might be getting a little too far, but
no, we've
got
got
green field of ideas.
We've got San Michelle over here in Woodinville, and Columbia Crest and all of that winery stuff. But that whole region, beep, 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 up and down that road, there's all kinds of vintners now. There's so much vodka and all kinds of other fun things.
So just something to think about. Jeff, and then Roscoe, and then Stuart.
So I'm kind of asking even where to start, like what platform. I'm streaming music on YouTube is probably a decent quality. Yep. Trying to do that in a Zoom, then we're dealing with registration. So this is open to anyone, all alumni, and that's who it's aimed at. And then how do I bring in interaction? We're thinking about a hashtag, and we can pull their social media in, ugly sweaters, show us photos of you toasting. Our alma mater here's a health. So like there's a toast built into our alma mater. So I'm just looking for those kind of ideas and what platform to do it, how to bring that into whatever platform I use.
Right. Roscoe, and then Stuart, and then Courtney, and then Grant, and then we'll move on.
Jeff, do you still have access to a large concert hall? Because one of the sold out events every season is called Deck the Halls, and we put all the groups all around this large concert hall, and it just makes it visually interesting. And I think it would make it visually interesting also for the internet, just to put them in different venues. It takes a lot more production to go out and actually find different venues, because sound you can't control. But in the concert hall, some of them are in front of the pipe organ pipe, some of them are tucked down into a corner. It's just very interesting that way. So if you have access.
You're good, Stuart.
I'm just thinking of that quote from Freddie Mercury, you need something that the audience can play. and thinking about last night of the proms, where the audience will sing and cheer and have streamers and the football clacker things and what have you. Jeff, don't be afraid to send out kazoos and triangles and cowbells and something comedy with the alumni logo on it that they'll want to keep, just so that they can join in when the music plays. Even if they're only hearing it at their end, it'll still be interactive and it might be fun.
Yep. Courtney, and then Grant.
Well, send out Santa hats with the school logo on them for everyone to wear, and then you can have a separate Zoom meeting. You stream on YouTube, and a separate Zoom meeting so that the interactivity, they can come in and you take a gallery view, and then you put a square window in the middle of the Zoom gallery view, and you transmit that out on YouTube so that people can see themselves, slightly delayed, in their Santa hats surrounding the performance, and you get some interactive that way. But I don't know if you're talking about live or not live, but that would be
Definitely live
interaction. Yeah.
So jazz combo playing Christmas tunes, thinking about requests for Christmas tunes, or voting on what tune to play.
Oh, that's good. Voting.
Grant.
Yeah, I would definitely do it in Zoom, and I'd get everyone in there. And you can control the audio well, high fidelity audio. You just think about it in a broadcast sense. But what I would think about is multiple camera angles. You could have a camera and a feed into Zoom of each instrument, and so you can have a mixed program feed, but you can have in the gallery view, you've got 5 different angles of the different instruments, and you can have some fun with that. And so then if there's multiple bands or whatever, you can kind of not just think about one program feed, but multiple feeds. And then the thing that we find with gallery is that it's magnetic. Like when people see other people enjoying it, they enjoy it more. And so it's encouraging that sort of dancing and fun activities or whatever, getting people up and all of that stuff is really cool.
So webinar or meeting?
Definitely meeting.
Yeah, I would do it in meeting because it would. I for some reason now I don't. This is probably more than you'd want to do, but having rooms with different bands in them would be kind of fun. Like you just go to a different room and there's different people playing or something like that, and there you could just jump into a different music and hang out with folks, and then maybe have a couple rooms where people can just talk. But I think that it would be I think that there's a lot of interesting things that you could do with that as far as people kind of roaming around, and don't underestimate the power of ringers. Like having a handful of people that when you that are kind of getting people going. And then maybe they're overtly the people that are there to get them going, but sometimes just people who are there that will be a little excitable, that will you just got to invite Sky to the as one of your he's just excited about everything. So the but people like that though add a lot of energy. Sky adds a lot of energy to this one, and so the thing is that excitement is infectious, and you want to have people like that are in the conversation, that are kind of moving that forward. So just especially in something that's online, it's important to have that. Otherwise, people could get real flat real quick. Dan, and then Bill, and then we're going to move on. Oh, and then
just tailing on to the breakouts are a great idea. For the alumni homecoming, ours was virtual, and the alumni had breakout rooms from like their classes, and they got to hang out in a period of time. And so that works. That would work well too.
Yeah, Bill, and then Benjamin. And then
I'd say embrace the chaos. When we did the first birthday, it was a disaster, and it was one of the most fun things we did here. So I would try to do a round like row, row, row your boat, and watch it descend into chaos, and have everybody embrace and love that chaos.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Having it go badly sometimes is kind of fun. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Sure. Yeah, definitely 1+ on the chaos. That's great. And also, if you could somehow have breakout rooms, like the main room where the music is happening and everyone's muted, and then you have breakout rooms where the music is being broadcast, but then people can chat under a lower volume music, like you stepped off to the side. That could be really interesting for a little more communication.
That's a good idea.
Connection.
I like that. That is a great idea.
Benjamin?
Yeah.
You are so cool.
Yeah, that's good thought there.
To be perfectly honest, I was a little inspired by Tucker last night.
Tucker's inspiring. All right, ready to go to the next one? We're going to move from Jeff Francis to Bobby Spangler of Campbellsville, Kentucky. Has Rogue Amoeba historically offered any Black Friday sales? I'm ready to purchase Loopback and Audio Hijack and would gladly take advantage of any discounts. And I am leaning forward because I desperately need to get a copy of Loopback, and I'm hoping for their Black Friday sales. Anybody know?
I thought that someone said that they do that, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't see any on their website. There doesn't seem to be any.
I've been looking for Black Friday discount codes, and it gets you into one of those terrible loops where somebody wants you to sign up for their website, and I don't do those, so I'm staying away from that.
It's worth every cent.
Yeah, it is. At retail, even at retail, it's like I put it off for a while. I was like, and here's the deal. I bought them separately. I'll admit it.
That's where I am. I
bought Loopback, and then I was like, I'm gonna have to buy it. So just buy the bundle, like figure it out. Like it's just like but and you just think they go together really well. It's anyway, Mickey and then Courtney.
Yeah, same. I got Loopback like years ago, and then I've been doing the meters here through Pro Tools, and then somebody, I think it was at Fenwick that did a quick run through of Hijack. It's like, might as well get it. It's like, could have saved a couple of bucks if I just got it as a bundle like years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Courtney.
Has anyone tried Loopback on the new Silicon? Because I heard some rumor that Loopback does not function at all on the new model.
It says it has new downloads for it on their website. So it's the new M1. It's got it's a big banner. I think that they're definitely managing that quickly.
Okay.
Next question. Oh, go ahead, Roscoe. What were you gonna say before that?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm on an M1 and I'm not running it just for that reason. But the other thing is, and I do this for teachers, you can use Audio Hijack directly into Zoom. Zoom has, you go into the MIDI settings in the utilities. Zoom has, when you share a screen, it gives a little module by which Audio Hijack can talk directly to Zoom. So you can have your microphone go through Zoom and that kind of stuff. You don't need Loopback to talk to Zoom from Audio Hijack.
That's great. That is a great tip. I use Loopback to merge things mostly, but anyway. So but that's great. And I'm going to have my first M1 today. So I'm just getting a little one. I'm testing them as little Zoom engines. And so, so just a little 8 meg one. We're going to try that and see if it works. It's going to save me a lot of money in the future if it works well. Anyway, next question.
8 meg. Gee, that's old.
Sorry. 8 meg. Yeah, 8 meg, maybe 8 gig. Yeah, I remember. I'm back. I can remember back when 8 megs was a lot. I had to write a 3-page paper to get from 128 megs to 192 megs at ILM. I had to explain why it made sense to invest in a 64 meg chip. Anyway, next question.
Okay. Bonar Bulgar of Burlington. I want to say that 10 times fast, just as a tongue twister. That's cool. I'm looking for streaming platforms that can be customized, branded for a client, streaming to 5,000 people, and need to have a decent registration and be secure with live chat. Your favorite options?
I don't have any favorite options. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I would probably go with Vimeo and build a custom site with login for it.
Yep. Yeah. I don't. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You've kind of got most of the features in Vimeo. You can do a password on it if you're going really low budget and you're just setting up a site. You could do a Squarespace site and put embed it there and then have a password on it. And you can do chat. There's a separate chat embed that you get with Vimeo as well, and so that can sit there too. But otherwise, yeah, you could do a WordPress site and you can lock that all down. You buy a couple of the plugins for WordPress and set all that up. You kind of got the password protection, and then that gets you into the site with those 2 embeds.
Next question.
Moving on, and we've got Robert Gates in New York. Question on lighting temperature. Is there a recommended starting point for a temp setting that most people use?
Go ahead, Stuart.
The basics are 3200 Kelvin for tungsten and 5600 Kelvin for daylight. And just so that everybody knows, the reason it's called Kelvin and what have you is you take a carbon block of 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, apply heat until you get to that temperature of Kelvin heat, and that's the color light that that carbon block will emit.
Next question.
They're the standards.
Moving on, Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas, in the panel. Alex Lindsay, can you go into more detail on how you plan to stream to multiple locations and how you deal with limits on video length?
So I think this question is because in December, we're going to start testing, later in December, we're going to start testing streaming to many locations all at one time. So mostly just so we can see how it's going to work. I haven't decided how I'm going to do. I'm looking at AWS, but I don't think AWS does LinkedIn. So I may use StreamYard for it actually, because I know StreamYard will go into LinkedIn. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm cobbling all of that together, so that at least for LinkedIn, I may have to go through something, and then whether I use one unified structure to do all of those or not is still something that's kind of up for grabs. I'm going to, my plan right now is to stream to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch are the ones that I'm planning to, and the wild cards are whether I'm going to rebuild my rigs so that I can stream to Instagram and TikTok for fun, and so the rigs are super funny. So it'll be fun to show you. I'll take pictures and send them to you. I haven't had to build them for a while, and I built one up recently and I didn't like it, so I took it down. So anyway, but the rigs are literally a phone looking at a TV. But it doesn't break the terms of service. And when you do it well and you get it all tented in and everything else, you can't tell that it's doing it. And so so I'm kind of playing with that. As far as length goes, I'm just gonna let it time out. Like if it gets to a length, it just times out, and you should have watched it on a different platform. And so you get to see whatever that length allows for, for that. So I'm gonna, but a lot of that is all figuring that out. Like how many people were watching when it timed out, or how many people were, so a lot of it is just doing data acquisition. It's not something that I necessarily recommend. I generally recommend people find a place that you're going to send it, and use all the other platforms to send it to that place, as opposed to sending it out to lots of things. That I feel like that fragments your audience a lot. So anyway, so we're gonna play with it, and but that's what I'm gonna do. And again, I like AWS because it's just something I'm fiddling with, and I'm doing more and more work in it. So doing it inside of AWS just means that I just get to do reps. If I do it every day, it'll get better and better and better. And we're working on we're starting to fiddle with interfaces for Media Live, because everything's got an API. So so how do we build things up that let us control everything so it's not so geeky to run it. So that's part of it, is using it as a way to do reps inside of that. Next question.
We have a couple of them coming in from Ricardo Hicks in Raleigh, North Carolina. The first one of which is there anyone else using Zoom meetings as presenter rooms for live stream events? We use vMix for graphics and encoding, so Zoom has been my go-to for bringing presenters on screen when we exceeded the magic number of 8 presenters. Are there any other ideas from the panel?
Well, Grant does this a lot. But yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, well, I think Alex and I are doing a similar thing in different ways, and so I'm doing it where I have people in the same Zoom meeting and then using breakout rooms. And so I just did a show a few hours ago where we had a few interviews and we had a panel discussion. And so I set it up where I have a green room and a stage as 2 breakout rooms. And then I'm able to drag people in and out. And now the cool thing was I had the Zoom room set up and had that sitting in the stage. And so then that's my view into the stage room. And so I was able to drag, literally I'm dragging people in and out of the green room into the stage. They don't have to touch anything. As soon as I assign them to that room, they get snapped out and they're in within 3-4 seconds, and they pop up. And when you have in the Zoom room, you can pin different people to those 3 screens. You can have someone that's just come into the room and it won't affect that at all. And so that's been working perfectly. So I personally don't need to use, the 8 vMix calls, for example, because I've got it all within Zoom. Now I don't have to worry about the individuals being able to hear each other because they're in the same Zoom room. And the green room is all separate for the production staff, and they have a multi-view of the production switcher. It just is. I've done a lot of them now, and we really love it.
And one of the advantages, right, is that you could have, if you want to switch very quickly from one group of people talking to another, you just have 2 Zoom rooms, and that are each in a different breakout. And so now they can both be kind of set up and running, and then you're just cutting to that other one.
You can drag a host. You could drag a host from one of those stages to the next, right? Do like a little holding slide for a few seconds in between, and now they've popped up in another gallery view with a whole bunch of other people as a panel.
Yeah, that's really great. And we do it in a slightly more painful way. We have every person come in individually, so it's still a Zoom room, but they each come in to that Zoom room individually. And the advantage that we have with that is that we have local comms. We can talk into every person's ear while they're talking. We also have all their audio as individuals, so we can manage any other audio issues that we have. If we need to pull them out and talk to them for a second and then put them back into the show. Now, all of that just feeds in as cameras to a switcher. So, mine's kind of a hardware heavy solution to that. It's one of the reasons we're testing these little M1s, because we were spending $2,200 a unit on Dell servers, and these M1. The reason we didn't use Mac Minis is because their graphics was so bad. So the graphics, you would get low frame rate on Zoom especially if you use multiple monitor outs. So we're testing the Mini to see if it can keep up. If we give it a bunch of monitors, will it do what we expect? Because it's smaller and cheaper. Those are the best things. So, if we can stack up a bunch of these, and then instead of $2,200 a unit, it's $700 a unit or something like that. And then you can double them up per U, and you can get a lot of them, stacked up in there. So that's kind of what we're kind of experimenting with. Next question.
The next is the second of Ricardo Hicks's questions. What are the best teleprompter options out there to assist virtual presenters?
The one that we're using, that I'm actually buying a bunch of today, or actually we bought them yesterday, are the iCan 12-inch portables. They're $8.99. They're not cheap, but they have a monitor. Anytime you get one with an actual screen, it's going to cost a lot more money. They're easy to assemble. So for us, when we send them out, we have to worry about, it's not just the teleprompter, it's how hard is it to build. This is not for iPads. If you're using teleprompters for iPads, then or other things, you can get them a lot less expensive. There's a lot of ProPrompter and a bunch of other ones. There's a bunch of, if you really are doing prompting, what we use the teleprompters for is prompting plus, looking at people, and we need to be able to control it. So what we do is we're sending their teleprompt via Zoom to them, but we want to control the computer. So ours are set up to a VPN. You just plug it in, you plug the box in, and then we see it over the internet. Then we take over, and all you got to do is plug it in, plug in the lights, plug in the camera, everything else, and then just sit there and we'll talk to you. But yeah, put an earpiece in and a headset, and that's about it. So that's the that's how what we use for, and the iCan one is the one that I've used for a while, and it's good enough. You can sit, as long as you're within 6 feet of it, you can comfortably view it depending on the size of the text. I don't know if anybody else has any other. It's nice.
Can you put that link in the Makana, or
I'll
somebody
try.
can?
I gotta find it.
I know.
I can find it.
Sorry. I know.
But it's 12. Yeah,
Keep
12.
going.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, if you're just want something simple and easy, I use this little thing called the Caddy Buddy. That's the one that I just have in front of me now. It is plastic. I would not take it out on the field. I would not use it as my primary teleprompter thing, but it does have a nice felt surround. You use it with an iPad, or you can even use it with a phone. The sled on the bottom is somewhat adjustable. It's also plastic. So again, I would not use this as your go-to, but it comes in a nice case, and you can take it out and you can set it up in the field. So it's not a bad solution.
And the problem that we mostly have is that, in addition to just solving the problem that we have, it has to be easy because we usually send them to executives. And so, we get a lot of heat when we send things that are complicated, like we just hear it, and they complain to our clients, they complain to the person who's accountable for it. So in addition to just wanting to get the job done, the game we're always playing is we're looking to try to do something great that they comment to our clients about how amazing that was. Like that's the game we play. It doesn't always work. It's still usually there's always a couple like, oh, that was really complicated. I don't know why you guys did that. But if you can start getting people like, wow, that was great, and I looked great, and it was easy, clients getting that back, just it yields more work. Mickey?
Just for the sake of completeness, what are the prompting softwares that the panel would recommend for Ricardo?
I'd recommend a good teleprompt operator that you bring in remotely. You can bring them in. A lot of teleprompt operators now can operate over Zoom really well. We had Michelle here years ago. Courtney's here. I don't know if Courtney does much remote through Zoom, or his team does that. But I would recommend a great teleprompt operator. It's more than the software, as Courtney will underline. It is someone who is sitting there while they're talking, editing it in real time, making adjustments, cleaning up their text, because they'll give it to you. The client will give it to you 15 minutes before, and it's got all this extra stuff in it that you don't need. And so it's a magic having a great teleprompt operator who will get all that stuff, clean it all up, and you watch it go really fast. And time is a big deal. You got people there. So a person is what I'd recommend. I'll find what we use when we need to, but go ahead, Courtney, and then Bill.
Yeah, we use Telescript. We don't do much virtual teleprompting, although we may have to get into it if COVID continues much longer. But we've been managing to do mostly in-person stuff even during the pandemic. And we use Telescript, which is fairly pricey. I would stay away from any of the free downloadable apps or the things that run on iPads because input and output is difficult. Editing is almost always impossible on those things. Good editing. Quick editing, and the ability to bookmark is very important, so that you can go to different places in the script. You can mark where you are if you want to come back and they want to rehearse down to a certain point and come back to a place where they picked up. The ability to drop a bookmark and return to that bookmark instantly with just a key press is very important. Those are most of the main thing is editing, and anything with iPad where you have to go through email or something to get the script into it is a problem. You need a system that you interact with real files that you can edit in a real word processor and then bring into the teleprompter with the right, and it'll automatically format the font and spacing and line divisions, everything else.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm going to support everything everyone has said up to this point in terms of professional teleprompting. It is not something you want to mess with. And if you have, somebody, a CEO sometimes on set is burning through more money in their salary than the entire rest of the production is costing you. If you do need something really simple, I have had good luck with Teleprompt Plus. I think it's Teleprompt Plus version 3 now in the App Store. It does allow most of the low-end connections of use an iPad for your prompter under your beam splitter mirror, and you can control it from your iPhone. You do have to exit the prompting mode to make script changes, so it's going to take a little longer. So you're not going to do it when you're in a live circumstance and you want to be agile. But if you just need something simple that works with something like that $200 teleprompter that I showed earlier, it will do the job, and it's been pretty reliable for us.
I've used that one, and then the other one is presentation prompter is the one that I have on my that's on my laptop. And so if I get pushed into it, I have been teleprompt operators for very large executives because they ask for it at the last minute. Like we're literally setting up, and they're like, who's going to put the script on the thing? And we're like, script. And so there's a bunch of us that have it, and teleprompt or the presentation prompter is what a lot of us have on our laptops as I will step in and do it under duress. But when left to my own devices, I will always hire an operator because all I do is work. If I'm doing a teleprompt, it's with an executive, and they are, as Bill said, their expense. It's time. Time is a big deal. Next question.
Moving on to Dan Huber of Erie, Pennsylvania, who says, has anybody used the Razer webcam? It has a ring light built in. He just put a link in the chat for people who want to look at it.
We bought it. We weren't happy with it. I think we sent it back. So we definitely, I got excited about it because I had a little ring light. It's really sourcey. The light shows up in your eyes, like in your glasses. And the quality of the webcam was just okay. But yeah, we definitely put it through its paces. Shannon did. She put it through its paces. She did not.
Enough said. I was looking for a simple kit for faculty.
The light,
and
it's tempting. We were excited about it because we were always trying to find. We went through kind of when the Lowell Ego Light, which is now coming back out again. When it disappeared, we used so many of those. They have a new LED one, I think, that looks like it'll be easier to set up. But we kind of went into the wilderness trying to figure out what we're going to do next, for those. And we went through ring lights because, again, our budget is a little smaller, so we couldn't afford to get guys ring lights and so on and so forth. They're like, we were kind of in the 120 range, 120, 130 range for our whole little kit, right? And so we had ring lights, and we got that as a test, and we had some other lights that we got, and we kind of settled into the LumaPad 25s is the ones that we use, and we like to have them offset a little bit, to make that work. Next question.
Moving on to Wayne Hayton out of Conway, Washington. Been doing a live stream concert for 36 weeks now, ATA Mini to MacBook Pro via USB-C to OBS to Facebook Live. No connection issues until a couple of weeks ago. No changes in the setup, but started having Facebook RTMP intermittent disconnects. Hour and a half show happens 4 to 5 times each week now. Anybody want to remote diagnose an intermittent problem for somebody else?
Go ahead, Stuart.
2 questions for Wayne. Firstly, how are you getting RTMP into Facebook? Because they switched their protocol to RTMP-S more than 12 months ago. So they want the secure version of the transport.
He may have just left that out. Because you couldn't connect to it to RTMP. So I'm sure that...
The other...
Go ahead.
The other part is a couple of weeks ago, Facebook also pushed through the new Facebook for pretty much everyone around the world. So I would check to see if that's had some sort of effect as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm not doing that.
Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, Facebook. That's all I gotta say. No,
Sorry,
next
that's
question.
me.
No, go ahead, Mickey, and then Sky.
No, that's me feeding it back. Accidentally unmuted.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead, Sky.
Conway, Washington. It's just like all of us are right here. This is crazy. The proximity is. Sorry, excitement. Excitement.
Well, even more excitement. I think your mic's a little hot. It's next question.
I'm not moving because it's too damp where you are, but I love you anyway. Wayne Hayton is finished, and we're moving on to Hasmuk in Cape Town. For a production in January 2021, we'll pre-record a lecture by a specialist physician and then have a live Q&A for the other 50% of the lecturer's time slot. Puzzled if I need a couple of headset mics for the 15 to 20 lecturers if they are all doing a live Q&A in a, quote, studio environment.
So it's a quiet environment. Well, I mean, in a perfect world, are they still doing are the lectures all coming into one place for the pre-record?
Yeah.
And are they seated?
We're gonna pre-record all of them first, and the actual live show will be them just doing the Q&A.
Yeah, I would use a shotgun. If they're seated and they're presenting, I would do a shotgun that's just out of frame, aimed at the base of their sternum. A relatively cost-effective way would be a Rode NT2 or 3, or a 416 if you've got the budget, or a Sheps if you've got a lot of budget. Anyway, so but the that'd be the big thing is that if you're controlling the environment and it's a controlled environment and so on and so forth, it's a much better experience and it sounds better. You get more natural sounds than with the headset. But when you send it out, I don't send shotguns out because people screw them up. They don't get it right, and then I get bad audio.
Yeah. No, Grant, my accomplice, will help me with that. So
very good.
Essentially, I think I was thinking of how am I going to do headsets for everybody,
Yeah.
So just a shotgun mic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Courtney, and then Mickey.
I just use a small PA speaker for the people that are on the panel that are doing the Q&A, and give them all hand mics that are, Shure SM58s or something. And
well, I'm sorry. Are the lecturers all going to be in that studio for the Q&A?
No,
Or no, they're going to all be on Zoom.
No. So it's each lecturer will have a 30-minute slot. So then we go through the lecture for 15 or 20 minutes, and the other 20 minutes is a Q&A. So
now, is that in that Q&A? Are they going to be back in that studio?
Yeah. It's a live Q&A. It's an interactive Q&A with all the participants.
So they watch it, and then in the same environment, you record it, and then in the same environment, they do it again.
Yeah. So instead of delivering the lecture in live, we'll just play the video for 10 minutes on the content. Well, this is what I'm going to discuss with Grant tomorrow. So the content is delivered in 10 or 12 minutes in a controlled fashion through a pre-recorded video. And then the person will take a Q&A in a live session interactively with all the participants. That's the idea.
I'd probably still do the same thing. In that environment, when someone's seated, by the way, the thing that's magical as far as making your studio easier is you can make a big studio, but if you're not doing multiple cameras, if it's a single address, a 70-inch TV or 80 minimum, but 80-inch preferably behind them with a graphic, you blur the graphic a little bit and then make sure it's far enough back that you don't get moiré. It's great. I mean, they look great. I've done a lot of those, and it works really, really well. You can get the key is it's like a great virtual background, except that it actually works. And we've done some really.
It's a perfect excuse. I've been trying to buy a HDR TV for home.
There you go. There you go. Now you have the excuse to go get it. There you go. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm not quite clear. Like, are all the 15 to 20 lectures going to be there at the same time, or
No. They're all going to have a slot. So it's a session.
It's a one direct address.
Yeah. So I would go with what Alex mentioned, where you use a shotgun or a hyper. I'd prefer a hyper indoors.
So the idea is the nephrologist will give his lecture, the hematologist will give his lecture, and so that's the idea.
What is a nephrologist?
He looks after your kidneys.
Thank you. And in that case, so in the world of all I'll say is that in the world of flipping the classroom, I will still argue that it's better to put the videos up a week before, let everybody watch them, and then just do Q&A. Because it's, here's the thing is that it lets people have time to digest the content, write questions. In fact, think about a chat room or a Discord or whatever you want to do where people can start discussing the videos before the event, and they can still ask questions, vote questions up, do whatever they want before it, and ruminate on it a little bit before before they get to the event. When you only let people watch something for 10 minutes, they only get to think about it for 10 minutes. When you give it to them a couple days ahead of time, they get to think about it for a while and think about those questions. The questions will be better. There'll be more questions. You can even get into a situation where you can make it a little bit more flexible, where this one might go long because there's a lot of great questions or something like that. So you may find that, as we have found, people will go a long time if you have just open questions. so it's just, but giving them the content to watch earlier, I find once we're in I guess I find the reason we do Q&A here and do almost no playback is because I think that the Q&A is this super valuable thing, and I don't want to waste people's time by just having them watch something, that they could have watched before. Mickey?
Yeah, I wonder, if you do that pre-recorded lecture that's 10 to 15 minutes long and that's sent out in advance, maybe just cut maybe a 2-minute recap of it that you can play right before each Q&A. Would that make sense?
I wouldn't bother, but it's what, you could. It's to your point. I mean, I think that there could be that, but I think that what you'd end up with is a bunch of people that are just there for the Q&A. I bet you that if you didn't interrupt them, they would just have this. They would happily go along in this conversation. Grant and then Bill, and then we'll move on because we're running out of time.
Yeah, to your point, Mickey, I've done exactly that type of show where 2 weeks before they had all the content, and then as part of the introduction to a panel, we said, just give a 60-second overview of your presentation, and it was just part of their hello, this is who I am, and this is my thesis or whatever, and then it moved on to the next person, and then we just did
How'd it go?
discussion. Oh, it was awesome. It works great,
It's really great.
And so Hasmukh, I think that the thing would be is not just one person, but the beauty of the panel then is what is amazing. Even if it's targeted questions to people, which is what we're doing right here. We've had questions to individuals, and then someone else pipes up, with a different angle on it.
The advantage of having it, the hard part. Well, the advantage of having one at a time, of course, is that you know who you're asking the question of, and you're not trying to get to a bunch of different people. Especially in a studio environment, you're only going to have access to that one person at that one time. But on and the other problem we also have is that a lot of times somebody is more popular than everybody else, and now you're tying up all their time, and it gets kind of swamped. And then you have three people that are like, "Why am I here?" And they're usually, especially if they're speakers, they're important people, and so they're just like they don't want to come back. So giving them their own time and letting them chew through those questions is more useful, and it also gives you get to see if there's not a lot of questions, you make them up.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a paid-for event for the attendees, and this is all about prepping them for their specialty exam. So it'll be rather a focused 30 minutes just with the nephrologist. So everything is around, the Q&A can be around that specific specialty, and then we move to the next specialty.
I have to say, if you're prepping for an exam, you should give them a lot of time to ask questions. Like they have a vested interest in getting their questions answered, and they're paying for it. I would block an hour a person. I wouldn't block 30 minutes. You will fill an hour if people are really, depending on how many people you have, but you could easily fill an hour of Q&A. Bill and then Courtney, real quick.
I'm just sensitive to the fact that having a couple of relatives in the medical industry right now, they are so roped and everybody is so under it with all this stuff that I wonder if their attention could be coming to this so chaotic from the things that they might need a little refresher of that 5 minutes of watching it. Maybe I'd start it ahead of the thing, just in case a physician or an intern or whoever these people are need that refresher before they go right into that, because it's crazy right now out there.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I was going to comment along the same lines. The problem with giving them all the content ahead of time that they view at their leisure in whatever order they want to is that then when the Q&A sessions start, you may have trouble associating, which lecture did this guy do? And so the little refresher will help you know that, oh, that was the lecture on this subject is this guy, associating the person with the lecture.
That makes sense.
Important.
Yep, absolutely. Next question.
Moving on to Benjamin, and to put my mouse is in the wrong place, and I apologize for that. Did anyone hear of any progress from MakeSpace, alt video chat and collaboration platform? And they has the link there, and that's the question.
I haven't. Can you tell us what it is, Benjamin?
Sure. It over the summer, this seemed like a very promising alternative to Zoom, where you're all in one space, one infinite canvas, where you can put other things and people's videos, and then they posted a demo, and then they disappeared. This seemed like the right place to ask, but
it's hard. We're in that mass race. Of everybody's got an idea. You're trying to get to the next round of funding. And there's already some pretty big players. So I think a lot of times these are plays also to get purchased. You have a couple little patents, and you show something off, and then you're hoping someone like Zoom goes, oh, I'll buy you for $1 million or $500,000 or $100 million or whatever that is. So my guess is that, I don't know anything about it, but my guess is if it didn't go anywhere and it just either didn't get traction, they were like, oh, okay, or it just didn't get bought, and that was the play. Yeah. Next, it's good. It's a good one. It looks cool. Next question.
Bob from Woodside says, if you're producing for Zoom, what's a good starting point for compression and EQ for voice?
Mickey?
Yeah.
We'll keep it quick because we're going to probably finish.
Compression, again, for both these things, depends what sounds good, but compression, maybe you want to be at maybe 2-to-1 ratio, somewhere between 3 to 6 dB of gain reduction. But of course, that varies. EQ, whatever sounds good.
That's good. Next question.
Moving to John Pruitt of Huntersville in the panel. Anything I should keep in mind when getting an extension cable for the 1/8 inch mic Polson connection?
I would extend the USB cable and not the Polson, not the analog cable. The USB cable is a data cable. It's not going to pick up noise. Extending your, you saw Jeff was here earlier and having trouble with his extension. So extend the USB cable. That's what we do. We send someone with a long USB and we keep the mic itself short. Yep. Next question.
Philip Tesoro of Brisbane, Australia says, is there a way to turn the spotlight ability on or off in Zoom? I had an event the other day using a client's pro account and couldn't spotlight from either the host computer or a co-host machine. Pin and multi-pin still worked.
I've never seen that problem. Go ahead, Paul, and then Mickey, real quick. Nope.
Were you calling on me, Alex?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, okay, then Mickey.
Yeah, I think on Zoom, if there's less than, I think, 3 participants, you are unable to spotlight. So I don't know, maybe there's.
Oh, that might be it. Yep. Next question.
John Pruitt from Huntersville on the panel says, what's the panel's opinion on Toastmasters? Are they doing virtual now that we're in the COVID world? Because it used to be the meeting thing to learn to do public speaking.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it's too scary for me. I've always thought about going to it, but then I backed out. I'm just
Paul doesn't want to speak in front of a lot of people, or at least have the impression that he is, because he's you're only here speaking in front of 150, 170 people. So it's no pressure. There's not many Toastmasters where you're sitting in front of 175 people. Anyway, Roscoe.
If you're not married, my sister found her husband there.
Oh wow, there you go.
There you go.
And did they give great toasts at their wedding? It seems like that's what I would
a long
expect
time
from
ago.
that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
The wedding's still going.
Yeah, they're still talking. They brought all their friends from Toastmasters, and it just goes and goes and goes. Go, John. Did you have a go?
I just, when you were talking earlier about practicing presentations, I thought that might be a good way to get practice in. I know that it would be virtual now, but I was just wondering if anybody had any experience with it and what they
that actually might, Toastmasters virtually might be pretty much what our ruthless reviews are.
I think it's a little. I think that we could take on something where we've done a little of this, where we started picking it, like we did a little tutorial on how to make coffee, and we might do more of these where people can do presentations, and we do them in a space where people feel like they can be great, like real reviews on the quality of their presentation. The hardest part is just making sure that A, it's a safe space to do that, and B, you're ready for when we do ruthless reviews, we warn everybody and we tell everybody you can just leave now, because we're going to pick at everything when you do that. And so being willing to get that is the only way to get better, is to be ready to do coaching. You look at a great gymnast has a great coach that is still picking at them when they're the best in the world. And so you have to be ready, for that picking. And that's something, I think that's the hardest part of presenting, is being willing to be critiqued. Roscoe and then Stuart, real quick.
Yeah. My sister was in charge of all the Hallmark storefronts west of the Mississippi, and she was great talking one-on-one with clients, but she then had to start presenting in front of groups. And so she went to Toastmasters for those skills, and it did wonders for her. Mm-hmm. So I would say, yes, definitely can pursue it. They can be tough on you, though. They have some very specific rules that they enforce.
Go ahead, Stuart. Oh, you're very quiet.
Yeah, if I hit the right button, that helps. Roscoe, for our family, a personal story matches very similar to what you just listed for your sister. Only my brother was not good at public speaking and attended Toastmasters with his then girlfriend, and we now have nieces. But it gave him the skills to now be a trainer for the company that he works for. And he looks at what we do here on Zoom and hates the fact that that particular company won't use Zoom.
There you go. Last question, I think.
Yeah, it is. John Preto of Las Vegas is in. I don't think he's on the panel today, but he's usually here. Alex, I noticed that you are not wearing your glasses today. Have you switched to contacts?
I have. There you go. That's all there is. I didn't have any surgery or anything else. I just I had not gotten around to finding a new optometrist for 5 years. so I get busy and I don't get around to things, and so I finally did, and now I got contacts again. So
now you can use a ring light.
Exactly. So and
Did
wear
you
sunglasses.
do both the same, or are you trying monovision? Because I switched to that a long time ago when it was.
They're all the same. Yeah, I don't want to do any. I don't do anything. Yeah, I have enough trouble with just the ones I have. So anyway, yeah, but for some reason I have more energy when I have contacts in than glasses, so it's nice. Anyway, Paul, real quick. Paul, you are raising your hand
anyone
this time.
here have any recommendations on reading glasses? I have these, but I'm always on the lookout for great reading glasses. Any
Costco?
suggestions?
Yeah, Costco, second vote. Yeah.
I was surprised that my eye doctor actually went through a whole process of testing me of exactly distance so that she found the right, mine's 1.25 or whatever for the distance that I am to what I'm looking at to my eyes, what the multiplier is. It's not like I just put on a couple and said, okay, I'm going to take this one. And I do find that the ones that I just bought were like 2.0, which looked really good, but as soon as I used them within days, I couldn't look at anything else. Like my eyes just went soft. So anyway, Stuart. Nope, you're quiet
I'm just
again.
curious as to if you've tried other color irises.
I've thought about it. I did for one Halloween. I did use red. It was kind of fun because I had a voice. I had a voice that went through with it. So so I would I put the red. You put the red contacts in, a little bit of extra makeup, and you just look at everyone and go, "Happy Halloween."
I'm going to suggest you don't do that for your
it gets
Zoom
people.
presence.
It scares people pretty intensely. So it's I've come for your soul. It's fun. Those are things that are kind of fun. Anyway, the fun of used to being a voice actor. Anyway, so all right, everybody. I know that we said we're going to just kind of let everybody wander out, but we're just going to actually just turn it off. So we'll start playing with it, but we are going to start playing with meetings. I'll send out something soon. Might not be tomorrow. It might be. Well, we'll see. We'll see if what we do tomorrow. We'll play with it. So anyway, so check in early if you feel like it. If you're on the East Coast or somewhere else in the world, we might start up a little earlier to play with it. And have a great day or great evening, great night.